The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Longman Simplified English Series. Read by Pichitchai Nopagao. Chapter 11. On the Island. When Tom awoke in the morning, he wondered where he was. He sat up and rubbed his eyes and looked around. Then he remembered it was the cold, grey dawn, and there was a delightful sense of peace in the deep calm and silence of the woods. Not a leaf stirred. Dewdrops stood upon the leaf and grass. A white layer of ashes covered the fire, and a blue thread of smoke rose straight into the air. Joe and Huck still slept. Now, far away in the woods, a bird called. Another answered. Gradually, the cold, dim gray of the morning whitened, and as gradually sounds multiplied and light revealed itself. The marvel of nature shaking off sleep and going to work unfolded itself to the boy. A little green worm came crawling over a dewy leaf. Tom sat as still as a stone, with his hopes rising and falling as the creature still came towards him or showed a tendency to go elsewhere. When it finally came down upon Tom's leg and began a journey over him, his whole heart was glad, for that meant that he was going to have a new suit of clothes. Without a shadow of doubt, a glorious, piratical uniform. Now a procession of ants appeared and went about their labors. One struggled with a dead spider 5 times as big as itself, and dragged it straight up a tree trunk. A tiny sport beetle climbed up the great hive of glass black, and Tom bent down close to it and said, "Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your home is on fire, your children alone." Boys, for he had long known that the ladybird was always ready to believe stories about fires. The birds were singing merrily by now. One fell down at a flash of blue flame, and stopped on a branch almost within the boy's reach. It turned its head to one side and eyed the strangers with immense curiosity. All nature was made awake. Long beams of sunlight pressed down through the leafy branches, and a few butterflies came dancing upon the scene. Tom rushed the other pirates, and in a minute or two they were chasing after and falling over each other in the shallow water of the sandbar. The current has carried off their raft, but this only delayed them, since its going was something like burning the bridge between them and civilization. They came back to camp wonderful and refreshed, and as hungry as wolves. They soon had the campfire blazing up again. Huck found a spring of clear cool water close by, and the boys made cups of leaves. Tom and Huck stepped to a promising place on the river bank and threw in through fishing lines. Almost immediately they had their reward, enough fish for a family. They fried the fish and were astonished, for no fish has ever seen so delicious before. They did not know that the quicker a freshwater fish is on the fire after it is caught, the better it is. And they did not stop to think that sleeping, exercise, and bathing in the open air has given them an excellent appetite. They laid about in the shade after breakfast, while Huck had a smoke, and then went off through the woods exploring. They found plenty of things to be delighted with, but nothing to be astonished at. They had a swim every hour, so it was about the middle of afternoon when they got back to camp. They were too hungry to stop to fish, but they had a good meal of meat, and threw themselves down in the shade to talk. But the talk soon began to drag, and then die. The quietness that hung over the mood, and the sense of loneliness began to have an effect on the spirits of boys. Awake, longing crept upon them. This took dim shape. Presently, it was budding homesickness. Even Finn, the red hand, was dreaming of his doorsteps and his empty barrels. But they were all ashamed of their weakness, and none was brave enough to say what was in his mind. For some time now the boys had heard a peculiar sound in the distance. One hearing a louder sound, the boys started, glanced at each other inquiringly, and listened. There was a long silence, deep and unbroken. Then a dull sound came floating down out of the distance. "What it is?" asked Joe in a whisper. "Let's go and see," said Tom. They sprang to their feet and hurried to the bank facing the village. They parted the bushes and peered out. The little stream ferry boat was not transporting people from bank to bank as usual, but was about the mile below the village. Her deck seemed crowded with people. There were many small boats being rowed about or flirting with the current in the neighborhood of the ferry boat. But the boys could not see what the men in them were doing. After a time, there was a puff of white smoke from the side of the ferry boat, and as it rose in a lazy cloud, that same dull sound was brought to the listeners again. "I know now," exclaimed Tom. "Somebody's down. Somebody's drowned." "That's it," said Hook. "They did that last summer when Bill Turner was drowned. They shot a big gun over the water, and that made the boys come up to the surface." The boys continued to listen and watch. Then a revealing thought flashed through Tom's mind, and he exclaimed, "Boys, I know who are drowned. We are." They felt like heroes. In an instant, they were missed. They were being waved over, harbor breaking for them, and best of all, they were to talk of the whole town, and the envy of all the boys. This was glorious. It was worthwhile being a pirate after all. As twilight drew on, the ferry boat went back to her accustomed business, and the rowing boats disappeared. The pirates returned to camp. They were swollen with vanity over their new importance and the great trouble that they were causing. They caught fish, cooked supper and ate it, and then began to guess what the village was thinking and saying about them. But when the shadows of night closed round them, they gradually ceased to talk and sat gazing into the fire, with their minds evidently wandering elsewhere. The excitement had gone now, and Tom as Joe could not keep out. Thought of certain persons at home who were not enjoying their fine adventure as much as they were. A sigh or to escape unaware. "Tom," said Joe hesitatingly, "pirates do go home sometimes, don't they?" Tom peered scorn upon him. Huck has not said a word on the subject and was therefore free to join in with Tom. Joe made excuse and firmly denied that he was suffering from homesickness. all that he wished to desert. As the night deepened, I began to nod, and presently fell asleep. Joe followed next. Tom lay watching the two for some time. At last he got up cautiously and went searching among the glass in the dim light of the campfire. He picked up and inspected several large pieces of the thin white bark of a tree, and finally chose two. Then he knelt by the fire and wrote something on each of these in pencil. One he rolled up and put in his coat pocket, and the other he put the Joe's cap, together with certain invaluable schoolboy treasures, among them a piece of chalk, a rubber ball, 3 fish hooks, and a special kind of marble. Then he tiptoed away.